I'm an alien. Hey, dorks. Welcome to my stupid channel. I made this new channel. I do toy reviews and other stuff on there. I do podcasts with my wife, so I'll link all my channels in the description. Please subscribe to all of them or just this one or whatever. I've got probably 2 subscribers because I just started it. But today I wanted to go, I'm going over my top 50 movies. I'm doing movies and albums because I just turned 51. That means I spent 50 years on this earth. So I do this thing where I have a digital record of almost, my whole life. Not every minute, of course. And this is part of it. I wanted to kind of put on record publicly, but also keep this video privately, of my top 50 things of toys and movies and blah, blah, blah. Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Watching it now, it's good, but there's also a lot of really troublesome things about it. It didn't age. It's okay. It does. But if you watch Close Encounters of the Third Kind now, you kind of understand that the lead guy, Richard Dreyfuss, who played the lead character, I'm forgetting his name off the top of my head. I've seen it 1,000 times. I forget the most common stuff. Is kind of an asshole, but he's kind of an asshole because what happens in the movie, if you haven't seen it. Now, if you've never seen it, because I'm talking about movies that are old enough that if a younger person saw this, they might not have seen it, then skip this and come back to it because I'm going to spoil it. But he basically is driving along, a UFO scans him, and he gets imprinted in him this image of like a shape, like a hill, like a mountain. In the end, it turns out to be Devil's Mountain. I forget what it's called. Devil's Rest, Devil's Mountain, Devil's something, Devil Rock in Montana or something. It's a particular, really interesting, like a plateau thing that's like a tourist spot in Montana or something. So he's obsessed with this image. He starts one of the great scenes. He builds it out of mashed potatoes. I don't know that they'd have that much mashed potatoes with 3 kids and 2 parents, but yeah, I don't know. If you ever mash potatoes, it does make a lot of content, edible content. You can take 2 potatoes and it makes a huge. Anyway, so he starts to get obsessed with this shape. It starts to ruin his marriage. He meets another woman who is an actress from a Christmas Story, another one of my favorite movies, which you might have seen the little review for that as well. They both become obsessed with this. Now, Richard Dreyfuss ends up essentially falling for this other woman and leaving behind his 2 or 3 kids and his wife to go to this mountain thing. And in hindsight, it's pretty yucky, but he has been taken over kind of in a way by alien influence. So it's like you give him a break, and it does have some dated. Obviously it was filmed in a time that makes it look dated now, and it was Steven Spielberg. And what's cool about it is that you see those earmarks of Steven Spielberg's movies. You can see the lens flares, and you can see this, and there's a lot of those kind of earmarks or stylistic things that later, as you see still Steven Spielberg, kind of makes him annoying. His stuff gets pretty formulaic in a lot of ways, but it's his formula, so it doesn't really bother you, if that makes sense. But whatever. It's a little too slick. But this movie, because of when it was made, because the effects are all practical and stuff like that, it has such a charm. Now, when he gets to the Devil Rock thingy, he realizes there's a government there. They're communicating with UFOs. From what I understand, the UFO is saying, hey, we imprinted this in you so that you show up to this rock and we can take you into the spaceship. Fine. And the government is investigating disappearances of like old World War II pilots and stuff like that, where the aliens got them, took them into space, and time traveled with them. Or they didn't time travel with them, I guess, because if you go the speed of light, you don't age as much, because of time warp, time stuff. You know how all that goes. So that has this kind of little sciencey sub story, which is fun. But the real star of the show, and what makes this one of my top movies, probably top 10 or 20, is the fact that when I was a kid, I can't remember when this came out. I need to look it up. I forgot. I was a child, 6 or 7 or whatever. So there is a scene that I don't know if you remember it. If you haven't, go watch the scene. Maybe I'll link it in the description. The ship is landing, and it opens up. The humans come out that had been captured over the years or taken over the years. There's a whole scene with that. And then the little aliens come down. Now, the little aliens were literally children put into alien outfits. And then the little kids kind of split, or no, I can't remember the exact order, but the big alien comes down. And the big alien is essentially... Alien abduction was a huge deal in the 70s. It still is, but it was like the biggest thing in the 70s and 80s. I remember as a growing up, even in the 90s. But there were not only books about it, but so many movies, and almost all those movies, Fire in the Sky, Communion, are on my top list because I was younger and they had such an effect on me in such a fun way. So it scared the hell out of me, but in such a fun way. And they often talked about tall aliens, like there would be short little squat aliens with big eyes, and there would be tall, inhumanly thin aliens that to this day affect a lot of pop culture. I mean, ask any kid who's like on a scary story subreddit, and they always talk about a tall, thin man or something. It's a very spooky thing. So this alien comes down, and he's super tall and super thin to the point that he looks almost like a marionette. It's not a great effect. But it would scare me so bad. I remember literally crying and covering my eyes, but wanting to watch because it was so interesting. But I would literally be crying, and I remember my parents just kind of giggling, didn't think it was real. My mom was comforting me and stuff. Oh, it's not real. But it would scare me. So I would remember, even when I would rewatch it, I would remember the moment coming up. I would start to get freaked out. And for a long time, that would freak me out when I got in, 8, 9, 10. Then later movies like Communion, Fire from the Sky, stuff like those, movies like those still had a neat effect on me, but I was older, of course. And then later, Under the Skin, for example, which is a controversial movie kind of, but the alien stuff and that, I love that spooky alien stuff. Annihilation, the more recent one. I'll talk about that later. I love the alien stuff, like just a weird, but just kind of, it's almost fun, fear stuff, fun, scary stuff. Anyway, so the tall alien comes out, and supposedly that tall alien didn't look very good or didn't work very well. They were going to have a bunch of the tall aliens, and it didn't work. So they had the children come out, and they were literally children in outfits. Like, when they're backlit, you can't quite see the kids, but when they come forward, you definitely see them. It definitely looks like kind of cheesier, but it actually, to me, made it in a way more creepy because they were literally like 5-year-olds in costumes. So they would just be like kind of shuffling around and blah, 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 and you could just, what they told the kids, now just come out, you're just aliens, have a good time. They didn't really want to scare the kids. So they probably just told them, yeah, just walk out of the spaceship. And that, their childlike movement combined with the giant eyes and the weird makeup is, to this day, I really enjoy how freaky it is. It's just such a fun, scary moment. I'm not into like murder stuff and gore and stuff, but alien stuff is so fun. It's just so fun. So anyway, that stuck with me to the point that it affected just how I enjoy movies. I like movies that have a bit of a weirdness to it. You don't quite understand. Now, if I had watched it when I was older, I probably had understood the plot more, and it probably would have seemed simpler than it was, because when I was a kid, I didn't know what was going on. And it took me really till many years and many viewings later till they understood, exactly what the story plot was and stuff like that. Close Encounters of the Third Kind means it's the third kind of a close encounter. I think there's 1 and 2. 3 is when you actually make physical contact, I believe, with aliens. They had a whole thing. The alien stuff from the 80s and 90s is a trip. You should really go check it out. I'll be talking more about different aliens movies now, but Close Encounters of the Third Kind is, even though it was mostly because it's imprinted on me as a child, that scary, scary, scary moment that made me cry, I can still it's just a comfort movie. It's so, even kind of taking away the fact that Richard Dreyfuss, he got a brain bug that made him an asshole. Even with that, and with the kind of crazy Spielberg stuff where he's like tearing the house apart and nobody's really doing nothing about it. They eventually get out of it, but he would often do that kind of comedic destruction stuff, and nobody really goes, what the hell are you doing? Like he's tearing up bushes and stuff. So, but anyway, go check it out. One of my favorite movies of all time. One of the scariest movies of all time. If you're 5, maybe, but if you haven't seen it, it's still pretty good. It's still really effective, and the practical effects are just amazing. The spaceship. You can actually see videos where they have the original built ship, and they would build these things out of wood and plaster and whatever, and they didn't have little tiny LEDs like now that you can get for $250 for a string of them. They had hot little LED, and they would put them all in here, throughout the ship, and it's really, really impressive work. Fantastic movie. I need to check if I can get a good Blu-ray with behind the scenes. But I mean, I've seen it so many times, and I've seen behind the scenes so many times that I don't know that there's much new out there. But I'll definitely check for it. So anyway, that's one of my top 10s for sure. Have a good one, everybody. Subscribe and stuff. Bye.